Hello everyone, welcome to another video. It is me, Desiree, and I am surrounded by plants right now. But I wanted to share with you some of my plants right now that are just like exploding with new growth. I think it's so interesting, like the plants that we have that grow one leaf at a time, you know, the ones where we're like, look, it's growing a new leaf. Those are the ones that we tend to pay the most attention to, at least I do as well. Like we see a new leaf, we're wanting to make sure it unfurls properly. But then there are other plants, like these big ones that have tons and tons of leaves that kind of just explode with growth out of nowhere. Like I don't notice when a new leaf is growing on a plant that has 100 leaves or more. I only notice one day when I'm like, that plant is getting really long. And lately I've had a lot of plants like that, so I want to kind of just show them to you. And of course I got something in my eye. And let's get a little closer. That's better. Okay, so the first one, this is one that kind of just came out of nowhere. I don't have to show you the dead leaf. This is a succulent of some sort. Maybe a... Dang it, I thought the name was going to come to me, but I don't remember what it's called. And on the side it just says Succulent Ceramic. So I got this at Lowe's and I bought it because they seem to put these plants out every year. They're in these really nice kind of tall ceramic planters that have a drainage hole. And they're normally, well, right, this one says $12.98. I think that's a little too much for one, but they regularly put them on clearance. Like last year I got 3 for $10 and I only bought them for the planters, and that's what I did with this. And all the plants died except for this one. This one for some reason just kept living and living. I have this one in a south-facing window. I keep it in the windowsill. But out of nowhere, it grew this. And I thought, what the heck is that? Is it growing like a flower? Is it some sort of bloom stalk? I don't know, but it's super cool. I do have to keep turning it in the window though. So like right now I have it this way and it'll bend towards the window, and then I'll turn it again this way and it'll like kind of bend towards the light. But it's kind of cool. I don't know what's gonna happen at the tip here, if it's just gonna continue growing like a new little plant, but I think it's really cool, and this one really just came out of nowhere. And the next one is a plant I think I have featured a couple times here on my channel. It is the Cuddly Cactus, aka my big fat cactus. This plant, look how tall this plant has gotten. I know a lot of you don't know what it looked like when I first got it, but this is what they call a cuddly cactus, and I think it's from Wild Interiors. So it's called a cuddly cactus because they cut the spines off of it. But be warned, as the plant grows, the spines are gonna grow on the new growth. It's not gonna have no spines. So just keep that in mind. So what they do is they actually like, it seems like shave off the little fuzz that's here and the spine, or like the thorn. So it's cuddly, right? It's not gonna poke you. But when I got it, it was this tall, and I bought it last year at Walmart. It was this tall. So all of this has grown in the last year. And of course the little fuzz that's on the little white parts here, it's there now. And it's there to kind of camouflage the spike, or like the little thorn, so you might not even know that it's there, but if you touch it you can feel that it's there. So just keep that in mind if you buy a cuddly cactus. It's not naturally thornless, but I feel like this plant keeps growing, and every time I turn around I'm like, it's freaking taller again. I think it has grown so much, and so many times I buy a cactus and it like grows so slow. But this is one I also keep in the south-facing window. It gets a ton of light throughout the day, and it seems to just love that kind of care. This is also a very thirsty plant. A lot of the time I always make the mistake of thinking cactus doesn't need that much water, but it does. And this one, I feel like I have to water it every, I don't know, like every 8 to 10 days. And I feel like I can tell when it needs water because the plant will just get really thin. Like normally these pieces here are hard as a rock, but right now I can almost feel my fingers when I'm touching this. So I know that it needs water, and it just seems to do great with that kind of care. I mean, look how much it's grown. And they do still have these out. I see them at the grocery store now from time to time. And I think they did have them at Walmart the last time I went and looked for plants. But I swear that one's just growing like a mile a minute. It's such a great plant, and I always want to buy another one. Okay, this one might not seem like it's growing, like it's busting out with new growth, but I want to show it to you anyway because this plant has literally never done anything. I have something else in my eye. So this is a Hoya carry eye. I guess I could show it to you. I bought this online. Okay, I bought this online from someone on Instagram who lives locally, and she used to have a plant store here that closed down and she was still selling some of the plants on the internet. So I went to her house and I bought this. And I had never seen a Hoya carry eye in real life before, and I didn't expect it to be this big. But it's a really big one. Like the leaves are really big. It has like this long vine and then this long vine here. But this plant has literally never done anything until now. It grew these 2 leaves. I happened to notice them the other day. They were tiny, and it seems like by the end of the week, this is what they look like. Like I looked at these, I want to say on Friday, and look how big they already are. I can't tell if they're gonna have the heart shape to them. They seem like they're just gonna be kind of rounded like some of these other ones are, like a obavata, I think. But that's cool anyway. I think it's a really great plant, and I'm glad it's finally growing. So you might not think that that's exploding with new growth, but I think it is because it's literally never done anything. So I don't think I've mentioned this one at all. I really can't even remember featuring it in a video, maybe a haul or something. This is a Rickrack Cactus, and this thing has just blown up with growth. So when the leaves grow and are mature, this is how they look. They have this really great zigzag pattern to them, but when they're new, this is how they look. They look really stringy and long. They have a lot of little fuzz on them that looks like it would be pokey, but it's not. It's really soft. I mean, don't make a point of touching it all the time, but it's not gonna hurt you when you're repotting or watering or anything like that, or handling it. But this plant has just like exploded. Like out of nowhere, all of these little things started popping up left and right. They're growing out of the ends of some of the mature leaves. And I feel like they take a long time to go from this like a tubular shape. It takes a long time for them to go from that shape to something that's really zigzaggy, but it's really cool for it to see it start happening. Like this one here is getting a little bit thick. There was one here that I just saw too. Oh, this one here. This one's starting to get a little bit of the little zigzag pattern at the top. It takes a long time for it to get like that, but it's growing like crazy, and I think it looks so cool and wild having those 2 different types of leaf shapes in there. And then the new leaves having all this white little fuzz on them, I think is so cute. And I've been seeing this plant lately at Home Depot in like a hanging basket. It's really, really long. And they also had some smaller ones too, but the plant pieces on it are super duper long. Like I almost bought one, but then I remember I have this and I don't need another one. But I love it. It's just growing so much, and gotta give it a shout out. Okay, this next one. This next one is one that I was thinking of when I was talking about in the beginning of the video. Like there are some plants we don't even notice are growing until they're like touching the ground, and that's this one. I have talked about this one lately though. It's the pothos called Cebu Blue. It's a beautiful plant, and I got this one at Walmart a while back, but these vines came out of nowhere. I feel like I showed this not too long ago in some sort of video when I was talking about all the vines that were growing, and it was a plant I was really loving, but they have gotten so much longer. They are actually touching the ground because this plant sits on a side table in my living room, and I have to like move them and put them up on top of the table now. So it's like filling out the table. It looks so cool, but it's growing so much. I kind of want to cut some of these vines to hang back here on my little shelf, but the Cebu Blue grows really like this. Like there's a lot of space between each leaf and like on the vine. Some of them grow a little closer together, but for the most part, it's a very vine heavy plant, and I don't know how cool that's gonna look, but I still kind of want to do it. But the top of the plant always stays really full. It's just the long vines will get kind of spindly. But it's been growing so much. I have to like corral it up onto the table. But I love it so much. And the pothos hanging baskets from Costa Farms are pretty good. I bought 3 of these. I love them. Okay, this next one is a plant I actually never mentioned. I don't even remember mentioning even buying this. But this is a Rapidophora Tetris sperma. And I actually have 3 of these. I have one back here on this shelf. I have one in the living room. And then I have this one. And if I can find the picture, I'll put it up here of what it looked like when I bought it, but it was so full. I had never seen this plant being sold like that. A lot of the time the plant is sold as one long vine because people like to have it going up the wall and stuff, and that's cool. But this one was sold as a bushy, like 5 or 6, maybe 10 plants in it. Like it was huge and big and full. I had never seen one like that. And then once I got it home, it was just on the decline immediately. It immediately was just leaves turning black, falling off, getting crispy. It was just not doing well at all. So I took whatever was left and I cut it up and I put it in this jar of water. I actually did film the video of me doing it and then I accidentally deleted it. What are you gonna do? But this plant is just thriving away, living in this water, and I almost just want to keep it in here. This whole little branch grew while living in the water. These 2 leaves here, this leaf is brand new. There's leaves growing in the jar. The roots are doing really well. Like this plant looks way better like this than it did as that big bushy plant with all the dead leaves on it. I kind of love the way that it looks in this jar too. Like I almost just want to keep it in here because it's just growing so beautiful. I don't know, I love it. Let me know, any of you guys that have plants living in water, like that's it, they always have lived in water, let me know if you have any, because I kind of want to keep this one in water. I think it looks beautiful in this jar and it's just loving life so much. Let me move this one out of the way. Thank you for your service, Cebu Blue, but you are no longer needed. Okay, this one here, oh, I cannot believe how much this plant has grown. It's crazy. Any of you that have been here on my channel for a long time probably remember a plant called Charlie that I loved. I featured it in many videos. It's in a video, like one of my first videos called Plants I Won't Shut Up About or something. It was in my like little picture for a long time. I can't tell if my vision is just getting worse or that I'm out of focus. It's so hard for me to tell sometimes. I think I'm in focus though. Anyway, that plant died. The mama plant is no longer with us. I repotted it into a pot that it had no business being in. It was way too big. This plant grows like really little tiny roots. So as big as the plant looks, it still doesn't need to be repotted that often, at least in my experience. And I repotted it into a pot that was way too big. I thought it would be fine because normally this plant is fine with anything. It's fine with bright, direct sun outside. It's fine with drought. It's fine with being overwatered. I've put this plant through the ringer. This was actually one of my first plants and it's done great. But once I repotted it into a too big of a pot, it got root rot. One day it turned all gray and I freaked out. So I cut off all the parts that were doing really well. And I had them living actually in this jar. And once the roots kind of started filling out the jar, it took a very long time because the roots took forever to grow. And once there was enough root in there, I potted it up. And this is that plant now. I mean, I never showed it to you before, but it has, like, it's overtaking the pot. But this is what I'm saying here. Even though the plant is really big, I swear the roots are probably like right up to here. Like, they have not filled out the pot at all. But this is one of my absolute favorite plants of all time, and it just blew up. Like, it looks absolutely insane. I can't believe it's overgrown the pot right now. And these are all cuttings from that original plant, so I always just say it's Charlie's second coming. But I love this. It's one of my absolute favorite plants. It's a creeping Charlie, and I think it's some sort of ivy. It's done really, really well for me now that I know, like, don't repot it all the time. You can keep it in the same pot. It will just grow and grow and grow, and this plant does great with pretty much anything. Low light, direct sun, drought, overwatering. It'll do good with overwatering if it's not in too big of a pot. So what I mean by that is, I just watered this morning, and if I were to water it again in 3 days, it'll do just fine. But if it's in way too big of a pot and it's constantly wet, it's probably gonna freak out on you. But I've had great success with this plant other than that one thing, and it's one of my absolute favorite plants, and I can't believe it's just like blowing up. It's reminding me of my OG baby Charlie, and I hope this one gets flowers this summer too, because last year I got flowers. So beautiful. Okay, I have one more to show you, and I'm going to insert a little video somewhere. This is the Peperomia called Ruby Cascade. This plant used to live in under my skylight in my living room, and it was doing great in there. The light was just growing and growing and growing. But I think the light really bleached out the green on the leaves, because the whole top of the plant is like a yellowy green now. I moved it into a different room that gets just north facing light. It's kind of like nice ambient light, but it is still just growing just as much as it was when it was under the really bright light of the skylight. And all of the new growth is dark green. Actually, let me go get it. Okay, this is the top of the plant. As you can see, it's very bleached out, but the leaves are still doing well. Like, they're not dying or anything. It's been like this for a long time. But since all of the new growth, I mean, look at this plant, is the regular like dark green color, that leads me to believe that it was getting way too much light, and maybe it just didn't need that much light in there. But it's doing so good. It's growing and growing and growing, and I love this plant. This is one that I also would love to hang some back here, but obviously this is like way too big of a plant to put on that shelf, and I have no clue how to propagate it, and I don't even want to try, because I just feel like I don't want to cut it and then I know it's not going to go well. But I love this plant a lot. But yeah, look how funny the top looks, like all bleached out. But this one has been just growing like an actual weed. It's almost touching the ground on the shelf that it's on right now. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'll probably just cut it at the bottom and try to propagate those pieces, because it'd be nice if I can get them and hang them back here on the shelf. But yeah, that is it. Those are some of my plants right now. They're just busting out with growth. You know what? I have to show you this real quick. One more thing. I finally watered my snake plant, my big giant snake plant that I hadn't watered in 4 months, and a leaf broke off. Like, look how tall this leaf is. A leaf broke off, so I just put it in the water, and it's actually doing something under there. But that's not what I want to show you. I want to show you this by One Leaf Begonia. Look at that. It grew a leaf in the water. Isn't that funny? And there's another leaf starting out next to it. I think that's super funny. But anyway, that one's also exploding with new growth. Those are some of the plants lately that have been just growing and growing and growing and just kind of surprising me one day. I'm like, what the heck? When did you start growing like that? Let me know some plants that you have that are just like busting out with new growth right now. I would love to know what they are. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And we will see you later in another video. Goodbye. When I say we, I mean me and all my plants. Goodbye.